I've heard some recycled concern, uncertainty and doubt just lately about transaction charges on the Bitcoin community. Not with the ability to maintain the miners, and thus preserve safety as soon as the block subsidy will get too low and/or disappears. This got me fascinated with how incentives would possibly play out. Moreover, the apparent remark that they're assuming no community utilization development and perpetually low charges on the bottom chain. I imagine there are two key underlying assumptions that have to be addressed. Mining hardware will live on in its present type as standalone, single-use computer systems. Mining corporations will live on of their present type as giant, standalone corporations that should continually try for profitability or exit of enterprise. Mining hardware. One man's trash is one other man's treasure. The secret right here is using waste. In its present type, electrical heating parts create warmth via using resistors. Resistors resist, altering the stream of electrical energy and dissipating the electrical energy within the type of warmth. You're primarily using poor electrical conductors with a view to create warmth. Appears fairly wasteful to me. When it comes to miners, their important waste product is warmth. Think about the purposes you possibly can construct using Bitcoin-specific ASIC chips. I see a future when each furnace and water heater produced makes use of ASIC chips because the heating component fairly than the normal electrical resistor varieties that exist at present. Mint Green in Canada is already doing this at a fairly large scale. They make the most of their waste warmth from the miners to warmth native companies like breweries, sea salt distilleries and even greenhouses. This adjustments the house mining profitability math fully. When using twin function purposes and harnessing the warmth initially characterized as waste. The purposes don't have to be worthwhile within the conventional sense anymore. Using the latest technology of ASIC chips for heating functions shouldn't be essentially wanted, nor fascinating. Bitcoin mining heating purposes, particularly on the retail degree, merely want to make use of the identical quantity of electrical energy or lower than their non-mining rivals. The little Bitcoin that's mined is just an additional benefit for upgrading your system or an incentive for builders to place into new properties. Why would you wish to purchase a house that wastes electrical energy by merely heating it? That's old school. I desire a dwelling that heats up and pays me once I warmth it. I desire a Bitcoin-sensible dwelling. Electrical system defined. To know the second assumption, you first want to know how electrical energy is generated. Electrical energy technology capability consists of three important producing sources: base, peak and intermediate load technology. Base load energy generates the minimal quantity of electrical energy with a view to fulfill the minimal degree of demand within the system. Peak load technology is used to fulfill peak demand durations when demand spikes. It's ramped up and down, making it much less environment-friendly and costlier. Intermediate load can also be a variable supply which responds to adjustments in demand, bridging the hole between base and peak load. If now we have variable capability available, that signifies that a minimum of a few of the time now we have unused capability, precious capital, that's not being utilized. What this implies is that your electrical energy prices not solely need to cowl the price of manufacturing, but in addition should subsidize the price of all of the unused, however mandatory capability electrical energy producers have to take care of. Why a lot complexity? As a result of demand shouldn't be fixed. The above graphic exhibits the typical demand for electrical energy and simply how risky it's, not solely by area, but in addition by season. If energy crops produce an excessive amount of electrical energy, it could really harm the grid, resulting in a blackout. There are a couple of strategies to retailer extra power akin to pumped storage hydropower. However, all of them have limitations akin to entry to water, house and battery know-how. Merely put, as soon as your battery is full, there's nowhere else for the power to go, which finally results in energy curtailment. It's additionally why intermittent sources like wind and photovoltaic will seemingly by no means be a sole supply of energy for the grid. There's merely not sufficient storage capability to maintain the system operating when the solar isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Bitcoin, after all, fixes this. Miners don't want to be worthwhile. Proper now, we see miners as standalone corporations, shopping for electrical energy on the markets from electrical corporations. If the Bitcoin worth goes down and/or prices go up, miners get squeezed and exit of enterprise. It's a viciously aggressive business, however what if it wasn't? What if mining turned a service fairly than a standalone enterprise? Service 1. Elimination of variable load vitality sources. In my humble opinion, the one approach ahead for a really sustainable power system is one that's based mostly on nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, nonetheless, is a base load power generator. You may actually ramp it up and down. The electrical energy produced have to be consumed or actually wasted by sending it into the bottom. So what will we use for variable demand? My reply is Bitcoin. As a substitute of constructing capability in variable varieties, utilizing up a bunch of capital for belongings which are solely used a few at a time, why not construct an enormous baseload of nuclear power and use Bitcoin mining because the variable demand to easy the electrical energy demand curve? It flips the paradigm on its head. Not solely will we get an enormous supply of fresh and sustainable power, we additionally make the most of all of our capability the entire time. The one variable being how lot hash price the facility plant produces all through the day. Within the meantime, Bitcoin can be utilized to make the most of the entire grid's power producing capability. It would improve energy firm revenues, offering them with extra capital to speculate and construct out infrastructure. By means of the combination of Bitcoin mining and power manufacturing, Bitcoin mining not must be worthwhile. Within the conventional sense, it merely must outweigh the chance value of not producing electrical energy in any respect. Moreover, the elevated utilization signifies that shoppers are not subsidizing unused capability of their month-to-month payments. Think about electrical energy rate freezes and even cuts. On the very least, energy charges wouldn't have to rise almost as quick. What's good for the goose is nice for the gander. If a clear, sustainable, resilient, dependable and inexpensive electrical grid is your objective, Bitcoin is the way. Service 2. Cleansing up the air. Waste merchandise like pure gasoline and methane have been nothing greater than a costly value of enterprise for a while. All of that's starting to vary at a speedy tempo. Whether or not the gases are produced via the breakdown of buried trash at a landfill, the drilling for oil, or the excrement of livestock and other people, these gases can now be harnessed and monetized via using turbines to mine Bitcoin. It's already occurring. ExxonMobil is simply one of many corporations beginning to do that. Pure gasoline is a byproduct of oil drilling and extraction. In lots of instances, it was merely not economical to deliver the gasoline to market, forcing producers to flare. And even worse, vent the gasoline instantly into the environment. Now the waste gasoline could be routed right into a generator and used for mining Bitcoin. It incentivizes corporations to be extra cautious with that waste gasoline. As a result of it has been reworked into an income-producing asset fairly than a pesky value of enterprise. Landfills are additionally dealing with the identical incentives. As rubbish breaks down underneath the floor, it produces methane gases. These gases, very like oil producers, have been typically flared or vented. With Bitcoin mining, the methane is now an asset to these corporations, incentivizing them to develop into higher stewards, lowering air pollution. Even human waste could be monetized with Bitcoin mining. Wastewater therapy crops usually use anaerobic digesters to interrupt down the solids after separating them from the majority of the water they course of. This course of produces, you guessed it, methane. Very similar to the facility plant examples, Bitcoin waste mining creates a state of affairs wherein miners not have to be worthwhile. Mining merely must outweigh the chance value of not mining. Within the conditions the place the gasoline can't be dropped at market, something is best than nothing. I believe I see a world the place gasoline flaring and venting is a factor of the previous. No earnings? No downside. Satoshi Nakamoto needed to assume in another way to deliver in regards to the creation of a wholly totally different community of cash and worth. We now have to assume in another way to not solely make sure the community survives, however to make sure human flourishing continues into the foreseeable future. Vitality shouldn't be scarce. Bitcoin is the inducement that the world must develop into actually progressive to make sure low-cost, clear power is obtainable for all. Bitcoin is human flourishing. This can be a visitor published by Mickey Koss. Opinions expressed are fully their very own and don't essentially replicate these of BTC Inc. or Bitcoin Journal. That is an opinion editorial by Mickey Koss, a West-level graduate with a level in economics. He spent 4 years within the infantry earlier than transitioning to the finance corps.